Imagine. It's the 1960s, the Second World War has just been over. Well, it's been over for a while now, and the world seems relatively peaceful. And yes, of course, there's some stuff happening, some relatively scary stuff that causes you to fear that there's gonna be a new war, but like, what's the chance of that? What's the chance of Germany attacking Japan? Why would they? They're allies. They won the war and they split the world up accordingly. Italy gets a small part, Japan a bigger one, and Germany the biggest. Why would they fight over stuff? Like, they're the leaders now, that's how things go. But secretly, the German officials are planning to attack Japan. It's called Operation Dandelion. And how will this all end? Well, I have no idea. The book doesn't really answer that. The Man in the High Castle is a 1962 book by Philip K. Dick, the guy that allegedly once had delusional visions caused by dentist anesthetics, started describing these visions, which his wife all wrote down, resulting in 5,000 pages of nonsense. Well, according to Dutch Wikipedia, that is, and I did not check the source for this information because I just find it so hilarious that I don't want it to be ruined for me. The Man in the High Castle, however, is not this 5,000 page vision, fever dream, but a science fiction novel that takes place in a world where the Axis powers won World War II. It's quite a depressing read that mostly focuses on normal people who live in this alternate history, and some of them get involved with politics more or less, but most of them kind of stay out of it. It's very down to earth, I guess, something the TV adaptation I hear is not. I can't judge though, because I haven't seen it yet. I read this book, or rather I listened to the audiobook in March of 2021. I liked it very much and did what I do best after finishing a book. I googled it. The Dutch Wikipedia page of the book is not named what I thought it would be though. The audiobook I listened to was named De Man in het Hoge Kasteel, which just means the man in the high castle in Dutch, as you would probably guess. But the Wikipedia page is named Laarzen in de Nacht, which means boots in the night. Huh? Boots in the night, I hear you think? Well, that's what I thought. So I read the page and discovered that 3 Dutch translations were made since the release of the book in 1962. The one I listened to, the audiobook, was from 2016. Probably because the television series was, well, I don't know if it was made around then, but I believe it was. The second translation was made in 1979. The cover of this one makes no sense, by the way, like, look at it. And the first Dutch translation ever was made in 1968, 6 years after the original American version was publicized. This is the only one of the 3 translations that got a name change though. The 1979 and the 2016 versions are both called De Man in het Hoge Kasteel, which again is just a literal translation of the English title. And I was just like, why was this name changed? The book can't be any different, can it? Well, I got kind of obsessed with it and looked through the whole web, but did not find a web store where I could buy the original translation, so I gave up. But then, one day, I was discussing the book with my brother's ex-girlfriend, who we're all still good friends with now. It's pretty weird, but it's nice. And the book still lingered in the back of my head, so that night I googled it again, and, well, then I saw it. It was a link to an online secondhand bookstore, and he had exactly 1 copy, and thus I now own Laarzen in de Nacht. Finally, I could uncover why they changed the title. The answer, more or less, is on the back cover. I will now translate from Dutch.
The war has been fought, but there is no peace to speak of in the American towns and cities. Freedom is non-existent. Man only knows fear and oppression, betrayal and trickery. The hated enemy with the spiked boots has won the war, and while German SS-men terrorize New York, the Japanese regime rules over San Francisco. The nightmare has become reality. America has become one big slave camp, but there is resistance. Shots and victims are made, and in a castle surrounded by barbed wire, a brave man lives who defies the Gestapo murderers, and on whom America has set its last desperate hope.
I can't say this is a very accurate representation of the book's content. Like I said, the story focuses on down-to-earth people mostly. This makes it out to be like a heroic story about resistance, but well, enough about that. Did you catch it? The hated enemy with the spiked boots. That's it. That's why the story was renamed to Boots in the Night. But why that specifically? Why not keep the original title? Doesn't it do a much better job? I was talking about this with my father one night, and he said something that hadn't even crossed my mind. Remember that most of the people who lived in the Netherlands in the 60s had lived through this nightmare scenario, more or less. They had lived under German regime, 20 years ago. They could still remember the boots of the Nazi officers marching over the borders. They heard the boots in the night. Boots in the Night was, for the typical 60s Dutchman, a very easy name to link with World War II, much more than The Man in the High Castle. I don't necessarily can put my finger on why I like this so much, but I really do. Translation and localization is strange, but I find it very intriguing. For instance, did you know that Murder, She Wrote is called The Lady in Yellow in Italy? It's because Jessica, the main character, is a crime novelist, and in Italy, crime novels were traditionally publicized in yellow covers, thus The Lady in Yellow. That's just fascinating, don't you think? Well, at least I do. I have no idea how to end this video, so I'm just gonna ask you to put your favorite localization things in the comments. So I hope to see you all soon, and for now I'll say goodbye.